Yo, that's right, coming at you with episode 34 of Rinkside. It's Pawtai here with Chewie Canadian. We're real excited to have you this evening for our 34th episode. That's one before 35. Another major milestone for the show, and it wouldn't be anything without you, our viewers, our fans, our supporters. Chewie, how are things going in your world? How's the corner treating you?
Yeah, things are going okay. In the real life hockey, I think I brought it up last week. There was the trade deadline for like the NHL last week, and it was a pretty big week for trade. Like I think it's been one of like the biggest weeks for trading in NHL. Usually, like they all like kind of do it on the last day, but this year it seemed like everything was done like right before the last day, and a little like personally, I'm a little sad about a couple trades because Detroit, one of my teams, they traded away two players I really liked, two players like of the cards that I'm collecting. So like now I'm like, I kind of want to sell their cards because they're not there anymore. But I don't know. It was still cool. What else?
Who are those two players?
Yeah, so one of them was Philip Roenick. He went to Vancouver, so which is cool, I guess. I don't know. And then Tyler Bertuzzi, who is one of my favorite players, he went to Boston, which I'm like not super thrilled about because I don't really love Boston all that much. And he was like rumored to go to Toronto, which I would have been like super happy with because he's from Canada, he's from the U.S., but he played in Guelph, like pretty much 30 minutes away in school in university, or I guess after university. So yeah, that would have been cool for him to come here. It's still possible, but I don't know. Now I've kind of reached out to some people to see if they'd buy their cards from me because I don't want to collect them too much anymore. But speaking of cards, I got a pretty cool one this week that I think you'd appreciate, or any Chicago or Leafs fans. But it's an Ed Belfour Vezina Trophy patch card.
Oh,
So this is his Chicago Blackhawks card with like a patch of the Vezina Trophy, which is like the best goalie trophy. So I don't know. It's pretty sweet.
sick.
It's not worth that much. I think I could probably get like $30 or something off on eBay. But yeah, it's a pretty cool card anyways. So if anyone wants it,
I'll give you
patch card.
I'll give you 35
All right, sold.
with shipping.
There you go.
Shipping needs to be included.
Oh, I don't know. It's almost $35 to get it down there. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll see how much it costs. If it's not too bad, I'll send it over to you. But yeah, that's my world. I didn't watch The Last of Us this week because we usually watch it on Mondays, but my wife is sleeping right now because she's not feeling too well. So next week we can talk about 2 episodes. But other than that, how's everything going with you?
I did get this like Lego of this Boba Fett, if you can see this.
Oh yeah.
And then I said, all right, now I want the big boy edition. So I got this
There
one.
you go. That's pretty sweet.
So another, another Lego added to the collection. So doing pretty well out in the penthouse. And I'd love to add some, collectibles to my collection. So maybe we can work something out. And you mentioned the trade deadline. I know like Patrick Kane got traded on the Blackhawks, right?
Yeah, he went to New York. It was kind of like a unfortunate like ending to his saga because obviously he won 3 cups with them, and he was like he'll probably go to the Hockey Hall of Fame. He's one of the best like American players, but it was just like a weird situation that panned out with them.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know. Like I'm planning to get like Blackhawks like tickets as close as I can to the glass, And
Yeah.
and my brother told me to wait on buying them until the trade impacted it, so like the prices would likely go down. So
Yeah, I don't think tickets would be too much. You're pretty much going to watch their AHL squad at this point. They're pretty, even Taves is out with an injury, or I guess he's going through some stuff. I think it's illness or like I think he got COVID or something, and then like he's just having like remnants of it, so he's not playing right now. And yeah, it's a pretty bare bones roster at this point. So I think by the end of the season, you could probably get tickets for fairly cheap.
Well, something to look forward to. And we've got a pretty, big and robust episode for you this evening, starting with our order. Let's do the conferences first, and then we'll do the transactions.
Cool. Yeah. So, I mean, at the top, you're not seeing too much movement, especially with the distance on the Rocket side. Las Vegas is 22-1-1. Only have lost 2 games all season. Uh, Not surprising, just with the roster they have. Alaska up there as well. Only 4 losses on the season. Albuquerque is having probably one of their best. Well, yeah, Albuquerque is having their best season yet. 32 points. That puts them 5th overall, 3rd in their conference, and I think this is the first time they've ever had a positive goal differential. It's not by much, but they're still doing fairly well. I think they're on a 4-game losing streak right now, though, so they definitely need to, stop the bleeding, because there is a couple teams coming behind them, and those teams, San Diego, Tennessee, Redwater, and Honolulu. San Diego's 25 points with a -2 goal differential, so they're still in the playoff race, but you're looking at 4 teams all like 20 points and then 19 points. So Tennessee, Redwater, Honolulu, North Bay. I mean, the numbers aren't great for them, but they're not out. 5 points away from a playoff spot. Redwater has had great seasons before, so you can easily see them, go on a huge run. Tennessee as well is one of the better offensive teams in the league. You can see them go on a huge run. Honolulu has shown signs of games where they can put up 5 goals. Again, they could go on a big run. And then North Bay has one of the best young goalies in the league in Lashinger, who can steal games against Alaska and Vegas and Copenhagen and those top teams. So, yeah, I think this is going to be like the best end of season goals of seen, because I feel like 3 weeks before the end of the season, you're already kind of like, oh, these teams are out. Right now, it's like it's really like everyone's racing for playoffs in this conference. We move over to the hockey standings. A little bit more distance between some teams, but no like huge, seasons like Las Vegas and Alaska. But you see Copenhagen and Miami tied. Miami with a game at hand, so I think they lost to actually today versus Turco.
No, we
you beat
won.
Turco. So okay, so Miami is technically first, 35 points. They just haven't logged that yet. Copenhagen, Jacksonville, and Turku, they've been having mid seasons this year, but I mean, with the switch to NHL 23, with some of the roster movements, it's not. You kind of expected some teams to kind of level out a little bit. They're still in the playoff race. I mean, they're still having phenomenal seasons. Just the consistency, and I think it's hard for a lot of teams just to be consistent this season. Even like myself, we went on a 5-game lose streak and then a 4-game win streak, and then it's just so hard to like gauge what's working and what's not. So again, those 2 teams are doing great. Florence is 1 point behind, so this playoff race is super tight. Florence with a very nice goal differential as well, 17. They have a better goal differential than almost the whole conference. So once they start putting up those wins, you can see them skyrocket, and you might see Turku miss playoffs. You might see Jacksonville miss playoffs. That'd be crazy to see. Another team that's been pretty good, Norfolk. They have another win today versus Rome. I think 5-1. So that puts them at 22 points. They're right in the mix. They could have a nice little run. They could give Jacksonville and Turku a run for their money, just with the possibilities of going on a losing streak with them. And the bottom 2 teams, Rome and Boston. It's been a tough season for both of them. Rome has been making some interesting moves. They're building for the future, so it's not all dark on that end. They have some very, very bright young players, locked in contracts, and they have a very good staff now by the looks of it. So, keep an eye out for them next season. Boston, I don't even know. when we go through our two teams today, Boston's one of them, so we'll dive into a little bit more. But on paper, they have a great team. On the ice, I'm not sure why it's not translating. Maybe once we go through the stats and the rosters, we can talk about that a little more. But yeah, that's your conference breakdown for the day.
Yeah. And, I can kind of dive into divisions unless you wanted to take this, Chewie.
Yeah, you can take the minors. Pretty much same thing what we've talked about in terms of the playoff picture. Miami, Copenhagen, both right now locked in for division winners, and then Jacksonville and Turku right now in the wild card spots with Florence right on their tail. Albuquerque and Las Vegas have locked in right now their division wins. Sorry, when I say locked in, I just mean like for this week. They could,
Yeah.
yeah, it could change next week. So sorry for the wording on that one. Right now, Albuquerque and Las Vegas are in first for their division. And then Alaska and San Diego are the two wild cards. Even though Tennessee is second in their division, they need to pass San Diego at this point to be in a playoff spot.
Well, there it is. And before we get into, we'll just do the minors and then we'll go back to the transactions. And with the standings here, we've got Warsaw again in first place this time and point above Tokyo. I think they might have been last, or maybe they were even, and there was a goal differential last time. But they're at 28. And then coming up, tied now with Tokyo in terms of points, is Sydney. Of course, their goal differential is 6 less. So they're slotted into third place. Iceland, so then you take 10 away from those points and you get down to 18, and we've got Iceland, Berlin, and Malmo, 3 teams that all have 18 points. And then 3 away from there, we've got Wellington with 15 and Beijing at the bottom with 8. It doesn't seem like there's been movement. I don't know much about the Pulse. Maybe we'll have to get a correspondent in here to speak on behalf of what's going on in the minor leagues. But that's kind of our standings for the minors. And let's turn our attention to the transactions.
Yeah, so quite an interesting one this week. We'll start off at March 3rd. So we got a big trade to start us off between the Rome Gladiators and the Honolulu Tropics. Rome receive Benjamin Drury, affiliate Andrew Payne, ex-Warlock, ex-Snowhawk, I believe, Dwight Schrute, and then Honolulu, and they get a second from Alaska in Season 7 that Honolulu had. And Honolulu receives James Bass and Max Jones. So breaking this down a little bit, it's a good trade for both teams for what they wanted to do. I think, in my personal opinion, Rome came out on top on this one. Just getting Benjamin Drury. He is a little bit lower rated than Bass, but this season I find goalies don't mean too much. Just with like not as many shutouts. I mean, last season you saw like a team almost have half the season of shutouts. This season, I think the max is like 5. Could be wrong. Maybe it's even lower. 5, James Stone. Andrew Payne, a super dynamic minor player who, once we scroll down a little bit more, he did get called up to Rome. He was super active, I know, in Warsaw and Berlin as well. He could add a big playmaking abilities to Rome this season and for the future. Dwight Schrute, I believe he's friends with Triple H. I know they were in a league together before. Dwight Schrute, good offensive defenseman. He also played some staff roles throughout his time here, and maybe this trade would rejuvenate that and bring him back into a front office role for Rome. And then, Honolulu probably get the best single piece in the trade, James Bass. He's been in the league since Season 1. He was Detroit, so my team's original goalie for the first season. He had a tremendous season. He unfortunately missed a few progressions, but now it seems like he's back, and I think this could really help Honolulu. Max Jones, he's looking like he's going inactive for the second time. He's missed quite a number of progressions, but this could also be an expansion bait for Honolulu. This could be a chance for them to call up one of their affiliates, like Captain Wicked. He's going to be pro eventually, and maybe that's opening up an opportunity for a call up for Honolulu. So if that's the case, again, a nice addition to kind of help with them through the expansion process. Next up, we'll scroll down to some releases. Evan Cummings left the league. Gustav Fring, he missed a number of progressions, and Cam Johnson missed a number of progressions. So those minor teams lose some players. Rome Gladiators, Mr. Minx, even though he won the team of the week, it couldn't bring him back to the league. He missed 4 progressions in a row, and he's gone. Rome called up Andrew Payne in that replacement. And then quite a number of signings this week. 6 new players, awesome to see. EV joins the Bucks. They were actually in the league last season. They decided to remake a player this season, so that's awesome. The Sydney Whales get, looks like 2 friends by the player creation post, but Bridget Summers, Total Drama Island legend, if anyone knows that show, and Poseidon, the god of water or sea or whatever. So Sydney Whales, those are 2 interesting ads. Kind of funny, actually, that it's the whales and Poseidon. I don't know if that was planned or not. Tokyo Tigers get Lars Anderson, a goalie. Disregard that. That changed. Berlin Snowhawks get Landon Dolanen to the Berlin Snowhawks, and then Wellington Farmers get Double Lift. I know a couple of these guys have been super active since joining, so that's awesome to see brand new people. And if we scroll down, there has been some errors, so a couple adjustments. Double Lift actually went to Malmo because Wellington had too many forwards. Iceland lose their goalie due to 4 progressions missed. And Lars Anderson is the new goalie there. And then Pat Callan ended up getting removed from the league, or I guess he left the league. And Doug Day, who was Colton Rhodes from Iceland, is now the new goalie for Berlin Snowhawks. So congrats to those 2 people for locking in goalie players. It's a hard position to come by here. There's a wait list. So if anyone wants to be a goalie one day, DM myself or any commissioner to get on that wait list, because right now there's 5 people on it, and there's only like 2 goalie positions opening up this offseason. So that was your rundown of transactions this week.
Wow, a lot of movement in the league, but it's good to see, positive change. And speaking of change, let's pull up our power play penalty kill. I'm going to be honest, not a lot of change here. Still got Miami with the number 1 power play, and we've got Albuquerque with the number 1 penalty kill. So we're going to move along to face-offs. Oops. Same thing, Redwater and Florence still at the top with 1 and 2. Not a lot of change here. Keep in mind that we've got, our league leaders. I'm going to show you the league leaders right now. No change either. Keep in mind that our data is like a day and, from the past time it was updated. So not a lot of change, as well as our rookies. Not a lot of change here as well. But we'll keep you updated as these move forward. I'm now going to move on over to the deep dive on our rosters coming up with Boston.
Yeah, so I'll take the roster, and then once I'm done, if you want to talk about the statistics side, our honorary stat guy Pawtai. Looking at the roster, I mean, like I mentioned in the standings, Boston has, on paper, a great roster. They have no one below 60 overall. If you're looking at their defense core, 92 overall, 91 overall, 91 overall, 88 overall, and then 283. So the bottom pair is 83 overall. To compare that, I guess, to let's say Florence. I know they have a good defensive core. Florence, their lowest overall is 79, and their second lowest is 86. So I mean, realistically, like, they're on par with playoff caliber teams. They're also locked in at great numbers, like 64 cap, 63 cap. I'd say their weakest link at this point would be JT Waters, but even then, like, it's hard to call him a weak link at 82 overall. He's just like, he's been playing great, but I don't know. Like there's also obviously a lot of 90 overall goalies. He was one of the expansion goalies drafted, so he is a little bit behind in terms of progression from the goalies who've been here since season 1, which is what it is. It's not a knock on him or his player. So in terms of the defense and goalies, maybe size is the issue. They have 2 6-foot players. Their biggest is 6'4" on defense. Maybe that could be it. They don't have any defensive defensemen. That could be it. So maybe we're looking at I mentioned before, it could be the strats that they're putting in there, the lines they're setting up. Maybe some more research needs to be done and to see what works for NHL 23. Again, I don't know that. Like, I'm not saying that's what it is. I just want to clarify. I'm not calling anyone out on the team. I'm just trying to, from a bird's eye view, what I would be looking at as an owner if this was my team. In terms of forwards, they do have a number of younger players in terms of Cookie Crisps, Constantino, Fowler, Benjamin Warner, J.W. Doyle. So, their depth, I would say, is not the strongest. Their top players being Phil O'Brien, Jake Molyneux, Ren Lysander. So they have a very good, top line looking top line players. Nathaniel Ironsides, 84 overall. Josh Seren, Grinder, whose Grinders I think have played really well in NHL 23. By the looks of the archetypes, they only have 2 playmakers. So again, maybe that's an issue that needs to be looked at. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 snipers. It could be the playmaking ability. Once Potty dives into the stats, maybe we'll see some discrepancies there. But overall, like, Boston could easily be a top team next year if they're able to retain as many people as possible. And that's the Boston deep dive.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Like, what like fundamental change needs to occur? Do you know the answer? Does anyone?
I don't know. I don't know. It could be anything. Yeah, there's a number of things, and yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Talk about the
look.
stats side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at the numbers here, those are always the truths, and these pretty updated at least through week. What are we in week 7 right now? So these are through week 6. Leading the team in points, we've got Ren Lysander. Get this, 9 goals and 9 assists with 18 points. And then coming up in second, we've got Jake Molyneux, 5 goals, 9 assists, followed by Nathaniel Ironsides in third place with 13 points, 6 goals, 7 assists, 13 points. One thing I did notice is J.W. Doyle, center, throwing up the same number as hits as Potty this season, 24. And it doesn't look like he's getting 13.42 time on ice. One stat I'd like to see, instead of like average points per time on ice, how many like hits per time on ice, how much like impact are you making? Maybe that'll be a new category to look into. But from a defensive perspective, let's shed some weight on Shaboy Sean. Of course, the owner of the team, throwing up 64 hits, pushing a -17 plus minus. And we've got another Mike Mello with 50. Oh, actually, Steve Vare has 55 hits. Mike Mello has 54. So, they're putting up some numbers. I wish we had some comparison to league averages. Maybe that's something we'll have for next time, to give a little comparison of how this stacks up to, other player types in the league.
Yeah.
All right. Moving our attention over to San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego. So big shout out to Matt Green, the owner. He's having himself a great season. He's made a number of moves in free agency through trading this season to bring in some top end players. We'll start at the goalie position. James Stone. I mean, there's nothing else to say but one of the best goalies in the league. He's won a number of awards. He's won himself a cup in season 1. And he's just been one of the most consistent goalies in the league. So that was a huge add. And his wife also ended up joining the team. They kind of were a package deal by the looks of it. Looks like they're hitting free agency together again this season. But yeah, Carrie Baker, 87 overall sniper. I think that's one of the biggest things San Diego's missing from previous seasons, and they've picked up Leighton Lee, another great sniper in the league. That allows Matt Green to maybe be on a little lower line so he can kind of line match better. I mean, 83 overall kind of works on the first line, but now you have the ability for Matt to be second or third line where he's line matching against lower end defense, and he can put up the numbers he needs to. And then obviously we saw that, I believe last week he got a hat trick. If anyone hasn't heard, Matt Green got a hat trick last week. So big shout out to him. Great defense core as well. Corey Pauley, big enforcer for the team, 92 overall. Richard Francicek, he's been in the league for quite a while. Big name that a lot of people probably know. 90 overall, couple of 80s, just good depth all around on the back end for San Diego. Up top, like I mentioned, they have a couple big names of Bailey Harper on forward, Leighton Lee, Carrie Baker. I'd say the forward depth in the middle is kind of maybe lacking, but it's like they've built a great team. It's very good balance of archetypes. The only thing I'd be concerned for them at this point is the number of free agents they have upcoming. It looks like they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 unsigned players. So the roster looks great this season, but if not all of them sign, I mean, you lose half your roster there. They're also looking to be well over the cap next season, the projected cap. So they'll also have to make some cuts anyways. So it'll be interesting to see how they manage this offseason and if they can stay a playoff contender after this offseason.
Well, I guess the time will tell, but what we know from now, there's a few interesting points. So, Leighton Lee's been playing with them for at least 4 games, potentially if they played today, that'll be 5. But as of 4 games ago, Leighton Lee has been leading the team in points per game with 0.75. So off to a great start with 3 goals, no assists. As far as point leaders go, we've got Bailey Harper with 17 points. Bailey's put up 10 goals, 7 assists, and an impressive 57.5% face-off rating. Granted, only 23 wins out of 40 taken, but coming up very close in terms of points. We've got Matt Green with 16 points. And, shout out to Terry Labonte, who's got only 6 points, but has a 57.7% face-off rating as a center. They've got, as you mentioned, 5 centers on the team from a positional perspective. In the hits department, we've got Corey Pauley throwing down an impressive 71, breaking through the 70 mark, followed by Nicholas Tosvig with 64, and Rizard Franchek with 48 coming in kind of third place. Actually,
Richard Francicek.
There we go. And I actually misspoke. It's Raska Santagria with 52 hits. But cool. Yeah, that breaks down San Diego. If you guys got any feedback on this special as we continue to feature teams, just let us know in the comments. Would love to hear what you're thinking.
Really quick before, I guess, while you were talking, I thought I'd look something up to shout out some of their league leaders. Boston, Shaboy Sean is 9th for time on ice. So he's playing a ton of minutes. That's huge for them to be on the ice that much at 583 minutes played in 24 games. Also, as we mentioned, the big boy James Stone leading the league in shutouts at this point. He's also 6th in the save percentage department with just over 900 save percentage. He's made 503 saves with against sixth in the goal against average, averaging about 2.28 goals let in per game. So I don't know, just some cool info for them on that.
Absolutely. And appreciate you bringing up the goalies. That's gotta do that. But let's turn our focus over to our plays of the week. All right, starting us off at a humble number 5, we got Pawtai on the draw, wins the face-off, puck gets over to Phillips. Phillips coming down the ice, crosses the line, and Pawtai does what type of maneuver? We had to shorten the celebration, but it was epic. Coming in number 4, we've got Matt Green. Only a handful of players. I don't know if this is the goal where it happened, but it was one of them. But check this out. Ooh! Matt had a hat trick that day. I don't think that was that goal, though. Number 3. Oh, Gerard Brody. Check this out in slow-mo. Did you see that? Like snatching a Pringles can out of midair. What grip strength that requires. All right, number 2. We've got, look who's here again. And let me tell you, I didn't pick these plays. These were democratically voted upon. Pawtai with the second goal in a row, and this night he had a third goal in a row per game. But let's go finally to number 1, and this is the number 1 goal of the week. Check this out. Oh, that was incredible. The back to back to back to back, like scribbling off a scratch off sticker. All right, Chewie. Well, I am going to hand it over to now talk to Kamenev. And we're here live and direct with Kamenev, owner of the Albuquerque Pharaohs.
How's it going?
Hey, it's going well. That's the first time anyone's opened up with a question for me. I've always got this strain of keeping the show alive by asking the questions, but I appreciate you coming on directly and helping us. Welcome to Rinkside. Pleasure to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, and thanks for having me here. It's an honor.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here. Did you get a new webcam and headset for this interview?
Yes, I did. The webcam did not work very well, so I'm using my phone. I'm gonna have to take that thing back.
Well, that's the level of dedication that we appreciate here. And speaking of appreciation, you are as I mentioned, the owner of Albuquerque. So it's
Yes.
been off to a great start this season. What are you grateful for in your team's performance this year?
I am really grateful that we have really stepped up on special teams. We've got the best penalty kill in the league last I checked, and our power play up until last week was really clicking. So I'm really grateful that the guys were able to step up and make that jump to contribute consistently on special teams.
Yeah, we've been tracking that, for a while, and I think over the past 2 weeks, you've maintained your stance up there. That's actually
Oh
been
yeah.
one of the things Miami's been looking to improve on is penalty kill. So maybe there's a few things we can learn from one another. But so I've got some numbers here. So Albuquerque currently
Yeah.
stands in 4th place and number
Mhm.
1 in their division by a
Yep.
long shot. Over the last few seasons, you've ended up season 5, you were 9th of 16, made it to the
Yep.
playoffs. Season 4, 8th of 16, made it to the playoffs. Season 3, 7th of 12, made it to the playoffs. Where do you believe you'll end up before the start of the postseason this season?
Uh, I don't want to jinx it. I'm hoping we can secure that third overall in the league standings. But so long as we make the playoffs is what I'm really concerned about, and from there I think we have a chance to win the cup. Just got to get there first. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad to hear your, optimism, but as well as like not trying to like jinx something. So kind of letting it
Yeah.
play out. And I'd say saying I'd like to get the 3rd spot. I think that's pretty humble. Some teams might say I don't care if they've won every single game. Like we're getting the number 1 spot or whatnot. So uh,
Yeah, no, with Alaska and Vegas right now, I think the week we just had last week, going 0-2-2, it kind of took us out of the running for that first and second spot. So props to them for putting together some killer teams that are tough to beat.
yeah. that's something to look forward to in a certain way, right? In
Yeah.
the playoffs. Um, I'm curious, taking a step back from where we are today to looking
hmm
at, over the course of this season, what foundational changes did you make to the organization before the start of this season, which has
hmm
led to your on ice success so far?
Honestly, we didn't change too much apart from the course. We When I took over this team back in season one, it was in a period of deep rebuilding. So I just got as many draft picks as I could and threw as many darts as I could at the board to you know see what stuck. Thankfully, a good number of those pieces have stuck through the years, and then we've made some big trades as well to bring in guys like Chester Chess, No Chico, who's on our penalty kill, and some of these guys that have just been absolute game changers for us.
And I know that there's a lot of people that make up a roster, and there's no way to say there's an I in team. But if you had to pick one, who is the most impactful player on your roster?
Oh man, um, that's a great question. I'm gonna give you three answers because I feel like all three of them deserve that nomination. It's either Chester Chess, I think for obvious reasons, uh, reigning MVP from last season. Then we got Tony Puckstopper, actually, who has just been lights out this year in net for us. And then from there, I wanna throw it out to Max Fowler, who's been a rock on defense for us basically from the start.
A humble owner didn't even throw your name in the mix at all.
No.
What it would have crossed my mind. Uh, but that's great to hear, and you give a lot of credit to your team. And I think all those three players are really great performers. If you look at kind of the future ahead, who's the greatest up and coming talent amongst your affiliates?
Well, let's see. We just brought up two of our affiliates, which in Stick Magnus and Tanner Pitts. So those two guys have got a lot of hope for. In terms of our actual affiliates right now, um, Hex Waters, I'm hoping we can keep him through expansion to fill some of these upcoming defensive holes due to expansion. And then if we can keep him, um, and this is a big if, but Timothy Alexander,
Hmm. Yeah,
if we can keep him.
because you
So
you can
I,
only pick one affiliate to protect, right?
mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and that's if you choose to protect an affiliate. You
Oh, right.
don't have to. But you can only lose one affiliate.
Oh, you can only lose one. Oh,
You can
interesting.
only lose one. Yeah, yeah. So hopefully we can. If I was an expansioner, those would be one of the two that I pick. Would be either Hex Waters or Timothy Alexander. Um,
Well,
so
guess you'll work with what you get in the end of the day. But
for sure.
what's the hardest part about leading Albuquerque?
The hardest part is, I mean, just looking at these guys and knowing the the struggles that we've been through as a team, especially some of the guys that have been around for a long time, and still losing games. It's no matter what point you're in the league, whether you're at the bottom or at the top, it still sucks to lose because you want your guys to win. You want the best for them at all times. So, and especially with an upcoming expansion, having to tell guys like, I don't have a protection slot for you, it's pretty tough because we've been through thick and thin.
Hmm. Yeah, it's tough to come to those terms, but at the end of the day,
hmm
there's only, so many positions, and, you
Yep.
know, you got to be able to pick with what's in the team's best interest on a very long timeline too. It's
Yeah.
not just for
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
next year. It's like
Yeah.
challenge.
Yep.
Um, okay. So yeah, so I understand, you're a member of Goals as an
Yes.
owner, as a player, but you're also a member of a few other sim leagues. Do you mind sharing what those other leagues are?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be in the SFL for the remainder of this season. They're moving to 2K4, and I'm not paying a running back subscription for that.
Oh yeah.
Um, um, but then I'm also in the GSB Gold Standard Basketball, and I run my own league, the USFA.
Excellent. And we'll touch on those in a second, but I wanted to come back to the SFL because I know you're
Mhm.
Randy Squarebush, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yes, I remember mentioning your name on the SimPod a number of times. Yeah, I never gave you shit, but my Benny the Butcher did.
Hey,
But you,
it's okay.
but you gave Douglas Brown a very competitive running. You secured a number of titles in the minors, right?
Yes. Never won a championship, but I think I've won some MVPs. I got some records down there that I hold. Um, so I feel like I've built a name for myself in the minors. That'll stand the test of time.
Here we go. I guess that's all you can really hope for is like the legacy you leave behind. I don't think I've
Yeah.
set any, like I've seen the new game presentation, and I would say for like
Hmm.
from a I'll just say from a kicker perspective, you used to have
Yeah.
like a horizontal view of the person kicking the ball and it goes into the uprights, and now it's a vertical view, and it kind of loses a little
Oh,
bit of tension when it comes to like, is he going to make it? Is it
yeah.
long enough? Um, if they could adjust
Hmm.
that view, I personally wouldn't have any qualms, with the game. But I understand your
Okay.
perspective. To me, it looked like more of like a retro game, but I thought the color scheme, at
Mhm.
least on the Dragons jerseys, were like really, really good, and it made the game like pop. I thought it had like a retro
Yeah.
punk feel.
Yeah. It definitely has that retro feel, and there's nothing wrong with that. Um, it's just when you're paying, as much as you are for a premium position, like, yeah, you want to see the game maybe go forward in visual.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
nothing wrong with what they're doing, just not for me anymore.
right. So the USFA, that's another football league, right? What can you share about
Correct.
that?
Well, we're heading into season 8 here. We got 10 teams now. It's been a absolute journey. I loved it every step of the way. But we do some unique stuff. We allow you to create on both sides of the ball. So you can have offense and defense, have your cake, eat it too, and experience more of the league a little bit faster. Um, I'd say we've got probably one of the most in-depth and realistic contract free agent negotiation systems. And yeah, it's pretty cheap to get into. Not gonna lie.
There you go. So it's definitely an alternative to some people that might be thinking, hey, the
Hmm.
SFL is not for me. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to stick with the SFL, but I'm open to
Right?
learning more about the USFA, and I hope other people are. Maybe we can connect them with you
Yeah,
if
no,
they want
and
to.
there's nothing against the SFL or anything like that. They're a great group of people. Um, it's just not for everyone. And when it's not for everyone, hey, happy to provide an alternative.
Yes. And there we go. And so, speaking of kind of the differences between running a team in a league
Mhm.
and running a league as a whole, what would you kind of describe like those differences as?
Well, there's running a team is a lot more micro oriented. You've got to deal with a lot more specifics of how the inner workings of the players are and what players complement each other, et cetera, et cetera. With the running the league as a whole, it's a lot more macro. Um, how do these rules affect the teams? How does that balance things out? Um, and how does that help create parity long term?
Hmm, that's really interesting. You know, I've
Hmm.
always kind of thought of some of the extensions of like team ownership and like player management to be
Hmm.
kind of scaled to an from a league ownership, but what you put
Yeah.
into perspective is like kind of the fluidity of these teams and creating like organizational structure that like supports them to be able to grow or learn. I don't know, maybe I'm getting it wrong, but that's kind of how I saw it.
No, I mean, when we started this league, we had the idea that, like, yeah, there are going to be teams for a period of time, just like in real sports, that sit at the bottom of the standings for a couple years, get their base back up, build up, and then start going on championship runs. And it just kind of creates that natural cycle of, teams rising and falling. If you look at the Blackhawks, the Ducks, for a long time, they were top dogs. Now they're sitting competing for 32nd in the league, and
Oh,
new teams are back up at the top. So,
I
you
didn't know
know,
the Blackhawks were staring down 32. That's pretty low,
oh
right?
yeah,
That's as low as
that's
it
that's
goes.
bottom of the bottom, yeah.
Oh,
So yeah, it's Chicago, Anaheim, and Columbus down there, bottom three.
interesting. Well, as I mentioned earlier, and you wouldn't know anything because you weren't here when we were recording with Chewie, but I
Mm.
mentioned that I hope that the prices of Blackhawk tickets went down because I live in Chicago and I'm trying to get as close as possible. And I'll have a Rinkside banner with like maybe a
Yeah,
QR code to our Rinkside channel. How sick would that be if we got 10 million
yeah,
viewers? For
that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. Do it. Get it
uh,
going.
well, I have a couple other questions for you, um,
Okay.
but I wanted to like give you the ball. Usually, like I close on like, do you have any closing thoughts for viewers? But before I get to like our last question, I just wanted to think like what's kind of on your mind. Like, what are you've got a league, you've got a team, you've got what's in your life and what's going on.
For those who don't know me, I'm a apprentice arborist. I'm starting to become a master arborist. If you don't know what that is, it's a tree trimmer and remover. So, I'm waiting for work to kind of get started back up because in the winters they shut down everything. So hopefully it gets a bit warmer and it stops snowing out here so I can get back to work. Um, but I've been using this spare time to learn how to mad modern so I can improve my league and uh, really focus on goals and trying to get things moving in that area, as well as expanding social life because you got to
Absolutely.
have one of those too.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you're conquering a lot of things, and you touched on the modding. I wanted to like circle back on that. That was the question I had that I forgot. Is like
Okay.
how does that work for your game you run on Madden 22? It's
hmm
modded, and like
hmm
what does that mean? How does that impact the teams? What does that enable?
So it enables us to get custom everything. We've removed on every stadium that's in the game that we're using at least. Um, we've removed all team and NFL branding. We've removed any and all EA Sports logos, etc. So it looks right now it looks under construction and there's things missing because we don't know how to put things back in there yet. Um, but in terms of just removing, we've removed anything and everything that could be traced to an NFL team to protect us from lawsuits.
Okay,
Um, but what that does is it opens up merchandising for us because we own all the logos.
yeah,
It opens up um, more advertising because we can go to, say, businesses and say, hey, we've got this ad space on our fields that we can give.
yeah,
Um, and then in terms of like team function, we
yeah.
can still do custom playbooks. So owners, hopefully next season, if not then by season 9, would be able to do their own complete uh, custom playbook. For now, we just got the NFL playbooks.
Okay, interesting. And so I guess my question is like, think about goals, for example, and the
hmm
concept of stats. Do you think that there would be a possibility that they could mod NHL 23 and then export all the stat data as like a CSV and then load it into?
Um, no, so unfortunately, EA does not create CSV files at the completion of a game.
Okay.
Um, so even we have to do the screenshots and hand jam them in,
Yeah.
um, which is unfortunate, but do what you got to do. And then in terms of console, I don't know if there is a way to edit console game or mod console games um, like that. So
Hmm.
it's a unique thing to the PC community, and NHL is not on PC.
Oh, okay. Interesting. But the man 22 is.
Yes.
Wow. Cool. In arborism, that's really cool.
Yeah.
You're connected to nature and you enable it to function within, different types of places where people live, and so trees don't fall on people, and they can also
Yep.
grow from the ground, because in Chicago there's places where there aren't a lot of trees, and they, it's like
Yeah.
it sucks. It like impacts your mental, functionality. So,
Yeah.
appreciate you bringing green to the world around us.
Hey, not a problem. Most of the time we're taking it down. So, you're
Yeah.
thinking of landscaping, they plant trees. We
Okay.
take them down.
To take them down. Well,
Yep.
it's been a pleasure having you on. And before we leave, I have a question for you that I ask all the interviewers.
Okay.
Where do you see goals 5 years from now?
Goals 5 years from now. Um, I see Krieg still sitting there running this with hopefully Chewie and Doug and all those guys are still here. They've been great for the league. But I think we could get up to 24 teams by that point. And I think it's going to be 1,000, maybe 2,000 people, something like that.
Hmm.
So I think it's going to grow exponentially. I think the future of sim sports is extremely bright. Geez, I can't talk anymore. Um, and once more people figure out what this is, there's a lot of people who can't make it pro but want to still play.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure having a pro on here, not only a team owner, but a league owner and someone that's given a lot to both their organizations. Great to have your perspective, Kamenev.
hey,
With that, I'm wishing you a good night and thanks for hopping on.
yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's been a blast.
Hey, Chewy, that was, a sweet episode doing it with you, man. Hope you had a good time.
Yeah, thanks again for another week. And any final thoughts before we close out this episode?
No, just real grateful for the people watching at home. And if you got any thoughts on how we can improve, we'd love to hear them from you. This is Pawtai and Chewy signing you off. Rinkside, episode 34.